So we caught up here with Longbow Games over at the Moscone Center. I think it's the last interview of GDC. Then we're off to do something entirely different. But before we go away, we're taking a look at Hegemony Rome, and that's the sequel to your first game. Can you tell us a little bit about what you learned with the first game and what you want to achieve with your sequel?
The first game, Hegemony Philip of Macedon, and then Hegemony Gold, that we was an expansion to that, was quite the learning experience for us. It was a very ambitious project for a small 5-person team, and it really gave us a chance to find out what makes the series really unique. The large, expansive map has the entire theater of war on one seamless map down to the tactical and up to the strategy levels. And our unique focus on the logistical side of combat that adds that extra dimension that lets you, cut supply lines, burn enemy crops, in addition to your standard siege mechanics and field battles. And with Rome, we've had the chance to really refine that and take advantage of Julius Caesar's brilliant strategies that enabled him, like bridging the Rhine and setting up the Roman forts, and his forced marches and the discipline he had in the Roman legions. It's given us some great opportunities to expand those core mechanics from the first game.
So what is it about this historical period that attracted you and that made you want to set the game in this period?
When researching possible topics for the new game, we came across Julius Caesar, because obviously he was one of the most brilliant tacticians of all time. And during the Gallic Wars, he wrote all of his 8 years of combat and strategies down into a series of books that he sent back to Rome for political and propaganda purposes. But it gave us some brilliant insight into his tactic and strategies and analysis of the battles and the different enemies that he fought. And even in those books, he highlighted the importance of logistics, which was a core component of the Hegemony series that we had focused in the last game. And so it just seemed to be like a perfect fit for where we wanted to take the game.
So for those familiar with the first game, what kind of changes have you made, and what kind of things does this historical period sort of add to the concept, because it's not just a reskin, right?
Yeah, the Hegemony Rome is far more than a reskin. We didn't just want to take the Greek units from our first game and replace them with legions. We wanted to incorporate what made Caesar's strategies unique. So it's offered us a chance to add a lot of new building features, because the Romans were the greatest engineers of the period. And Caesar's crossing of the Rhine, his fort building techniques were all stuff that we could add to the game to expand those options. Yeah, one of the options was to expand our upgrade system and our unit stats. So the legions have officers you can now promote that offer special abilities to combat and scouting, morale, discipline, those kind of things, as well as upgrades within your cities that improve, garrison strength, resupply radiuses around your cities. And these were all core factors that we could expand on the game from user requests, and that fit really well with the Roman time period.
And one of the things that, when you talk about it like this, it sounds really complicated with resupply lines and sort of keeping everything together in this one big map and all things happening at once. But one of the things that struck me when I saw it was just how simple it's kept in terms of the interface and what the player actually does.
Yeah, that was one of our the most important things when we did the first game, and as we've carried it on to Rome. We wanted the game to be accessible just not to non-war gamers, as well as people who wanted deeper strategy. So we've really tried to find the core mechanics that enable the strategies of Caesar and the logistical side, the sieging side, and isolate down those so the depth comes from a combination of smaller core mechanics spanning to a large map, the unique aspects of the terrain, and they kind of build upon each other. So rather than sitting down for an hour of tutorials like you do with a lot of war games, you can really get in quickly and understand those basic mechanics, and players can start off immediately.
As far as I understand it, you got the campaign going, and then you got the sandbox mode. Can you tell us a little bit about what sets them apart and what you can do in the sandbox mode? Sure.
Well, the campaigns, we've broken the Caesar's 8-year campaign that he documented down into 4 chapters that cover various aspects of his Britain invasion and the final battle against Vercingetorix, who united all of the Gallic tribes together against Caesar. And so players can jump into these campaigns and follow the historical battles, and we've tried to build up a bit of the story to give significance to who these people were. And one of the interesting parts about the campaign is there's a lot of fascinating historical wargame information, but it's also a very human story. This was a turning point in Caesar's life when he came as he was a notable governor and a brilliant general, but it was when he left this period after losing his daughter and the breakdown of his relations with Pompey, that really he returned and crossed the Rubicon and became the dictator of Rome. So it was a remarkable story of this transition that we tried to get in the campaigns. But on the flip side, we've got the sandbox mode, and that lets players who want to ignore the history, create their own history themselves, take either the Romans again, or the Britons, or the Germans, or the Gauls, and go for straight-out conquest. They can play their own way, take over the map against different AI characters who are also trying to take over the map. And so it gives a wide variety of play styles that way.
All right, and when are you aiming for release?
Hegemony Rome should be done later this year. We're currently in moving towards a beta process that we're inviting players to come to Longbow Games and get into the discussion. We try to involve our community a lot with the development process. We had a great group of people from the Hegemony Gold that we worked with, and so we'll be moving into that process in the summer and invite people to come to Longbow Games and check it out and tell us what they think, and hopefully before the end of the year they'll see Hegemony Rome.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.